This isn't just Gracie Bond's success story, it's proof that industry transformation is available to anyone willing to build authentic excellence around their natural sultry assets, rather than trying to conform to outdated standards that limit rather than enhance their glamour potential. What aspect of your approach to fashion, beauty, or any industry are you ready to revolutionize around your authentic sultry advantages? What traditional glamour standards are you ready to exceed through approaches that celebrate rather than restrict your unique magnetic qualities? The fashion industry thought commercial success had specific requirements and limitations. Gracie proved them wrong by creating more engagement, more influence, and more profit through sultry authenticity. What industry limitations are you ready to prove wrong through your own authentic glamour excellence? If you're hungry for more stories about people who changed entire industries by refusing to apologize for their authentic sultry assets, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of people who understand that the most powerful success comes from celebrating rather than conforming. Next week, we're revealing another industry revolution that completely transformed glamour standards, and trust me, this story involves even more authentic transformation, bigger cultural impact, and more proof that natural sultry assets create more lasting success than manufactured conformity. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the first industry standard you're going to challenge by building excellence around your authentic sultry assets? Let's start a revolution where sultry authenticity becomes the new standard for success. Because here's the ultimate truth: the power to change industries isn't just about having perfect circumstances or unlimited resources. It's about having the confidence to build excellence around your authentic sultry assets, and the commitment to create results that are too powerful for industries to ignore. The sultry revolution started with one woman refusing to minimize her glamour approach for industry comfort, but it continues with every person brave enough to build success around celebrating rather than apologizing for exactly who they are. Let's expose how Gracie Bond turned fashion industry influence into a business empire that proves authentic sultry content isn't just personally satisfying and culturally impactful, it's incredibly profitable and strategically brilliant for building long-term wealth in the fashion and beauty industries. The business empire she built around sultry authority and fashion expertise is pure monetization genius disguised as authentic modeling. Every fashion moment becomes content that generates income. Every industry-changing campaign becomes proof of concept for brand partnerships that want authentic glamour representation. Every successful collaboration becomes evidence for premium pricing and exclusive opportunities. Her revenue streams built on fashion industry influence include brand partnerships with fashion companies that want to reach consumers who value authentic glamour over manufactured perfection. Modeling contracts that command premium rates because authentic sultry content creates more engagement than traditional approaches. Consulting opportunities with brands trying to understand how sultry representation drives purchasing decisions and brand loyalty. But here's the business genius that explains her empire success. She doesn't just sell modeling services, she sells the expertise and influence that allows fashion brands to connect with consumers who are ready for more authentic glamour representation. Her clients don't just want her sultry approach. They want access to the market influence and cultural authority that comes with authentic sultry leadership. The brand partnerships that specifically want her fashion-changing appeal include fashion brands that need authentic representation of how clothing works with sultry energy. Beauty companies that want to understand how confident women approach fashion and beauty differently than insecure consumers. Lifestyle brands that recognize authentic sultry content influences purchasing decisions across multiple product categories. Her investment portfolio proves her understanding of building wealth through fashion industry influence that extends beyond just modeling contracts. Real estate investments in properties that appreciate while providing lifestyle content opportunities. Business equity in fashion and beauty companies that serve confident women and understand authentic glamour markets. The team behind her fashion empire understands beauty industry economics and authentic influence monetization. Business managers who specialize in fashion industry partnerships and brand development. Content creators who understand how to document fashion moments without losing sultry authenticity. Marketing strategists who know how to leverage fashion industry influence for maximum business impact. But the ultimate business move. She leveraged her fashion industry transformation expertise to become a consultant for major fashion brands, trying to understand how authentic sultry content drives consumer behavior, brand perception, and competitive positioning in evolving fashion markets. Her speaking fees and consultation rates reflect the value of fashion transformation expertise in business environments. Companies pay premium rates to understand how authentic glamour representation creates business advantages, and how fashion industry evolution affects marketing strategies and consumer relationships. So what can her sultry revolution teach us about changing industries? Here's the truth about Gracie Bond's fashion industry transformation that applies to anyone trying to create authentic success. An industry influence that celebrates rather than restricts their unique assets and natural advantages. Industry change doesn't require permission, it requires results that are too powerful to ignore. First lesson: build your approach around your authentic sultry assets, rather than trying to minimize them for industry comfort. Traditional fashion often asks people to conform to predetermined standards. Industry-changing success comes from creating standards that enhance rather than restrict your natural glamour advantages. Second, focus on creating undeniable results rather than arguing for acceptance. Industries change when new approaches produce better outcomes than traditional methods. Authentic sultry success speaks louder than any argument about why glamour standards should change. Third, treat your unique sultry qualities as competitive advantages rather than obstacles to overcome. When you build your career around celebrating rather than apologizing for what makes you magnetically different, you create opportunities that didn't exist before you proved they were possible. Fourth, understand that industry transformation happens through demonstration, not persuasion. When you consistently create better results through authentic sultry approaches, industries adapt their standards to accommodate and replicate your success. The mindset shift that makes industry impact possible. Understanding that the most powerful change comes from authentic glamour excellence rather than conformist mediocrity. When you stop trying to fit into existing industry molds and start creating results that exceed traditional standards, entire industries evolve to accommodate your sultry approach. Whether you have natural sultry energy or any other unique asset, whether you're naturally confident or building glamour confidence, whether you prefer traditional industries or emerging markets, the principles of creating industry impact apply. Build around your authentic sultry advantages. Focus on results rather than acceptance. Create glamour standards rather than following them. The implementation strategy focuses on starting where you are with what you have. You don't need industry connections to begin creating authentic sultry excellence. You don't need perfect circumstances to start building results that exceed traditional glamour standards. You don't need external validation to begin treating your unique sultry assets as competitive advantages. Before you think changing fashion is only for certain people. Let's break down how Gracie Bond systematically developed the approach that would revolutionize fashion industry standards. Because this wasn't about rejecting fashion, this was about proving that fashion could be more beautiful, more engaging, and more commercially successful when it celebrated rather than restricted sultry natural glamour. Her sultry revolution is built on one fundamental principle: authentic glamour creates more impact than manufactured conformity. While traditional fashion modeling focuses on fitting predetermined standards, her approach focuses on creating standards that enhance rather than diminish natural magnetism. The specific modeling strategies that made fashion take notice include posing techniques that showcase her sultry energy as the centerpiece of fashion rather than trying to camouflage it for industry appropriateness. Styling choices that enhance rather than compete with natural glamour. Photo shoot approaches that treat her sultry approach as the star rather than something to work around. But here's the revolution genius that explains her fashion-changing success. She realized that memorable fashion comes from authenticity, not imitation. When models try to copy predetermined industry templates, they create forgettable content. When models build fashion moments around their authentic sultry assets, they create unforgettable experiences. Her approach to showcasing her sultry content in fashion completely contradicts traditional modeling advice. Instead of trying to minimize glamour for versatility, she maximizes their impact for memorability. Instead of following conventional posing rules, she develops techniques that make her natural sultry energy the focal point of every fashion moment. The psychology behind confident sultry modeling in fashion spaces is revolutionary. Traditional fashion often asks models to minimize aspects of themselves to fit predetermined molds. Gracie's approach asks fashion to adapt to and celebrate authentic glamour rather than asking authentic sultry energy to conform to fashion limitations. Her signature techniques for revolutionizing fashion representation include confidence strategies that make sultry approaches the foundation of fashion authority rather than obstacles to overcome. Collaboration approaches that educate fashion teams about how to work with rather than against natural glamour. Content creation that demonstrates how authentic sultry energy creates more engaging fashion than performed conformity. The compound effect of these approaches created something unprecedented: fashion content that felt both high-end and authentic, professional and personal, industry standard and completely unique. Every fashion moment became evidence that the most powerful modeling comes from celebrating rather than apologizing for natural sultry assets. But the real breakthrough came when she realized that her success with sultry-centered fashion could influence how entire brands, agencies, and industry professionals approach glamour standards, casting decisions, and marketing strategies. Her personal revolution became proof that authentic sultry content creates better business results than traditional approaches. And then she did something that made the entire fashion world reconsider everything. Gracie Bond didn't just build a successful modeling career. She created a fashion empire that proves her sultry approach isn't just more authentic than traditional methods. It's more influential, more profitable, and more culturally impactful than conventional fashion industry practices. Her fashion empire is built on the revolutionary principle that industry standards should enhance rather than restrict authentic glamour. While traditional fashion asks models to conform to predetermined requirements, her empire demonstrates how fashion can be more successful when it adapts to celebrate individual sultry authenticity. The specific ways her success changed how fashion approaches sultry models include casting decisions that prioritize authentic glamour over conformity to outdated standards. Brand campaigns that feature sultry approaches as aspirational rather than alternative. Marketing strategies that recognize authentic sultry content creates more engagement than manufactured perfection. But here's the empire genius. She doesn't just succeed within existing fashion standards, she creates new standards that other models, brands, and industry professionals adopt, because they produce better results than traditional approaches. Her impact on fashion brands extends beyond just personal partnerships into consulting and collaboration that helps companies understand how authentic sultry representation creates competitive advantages in crowded fashion markets. The modeling choices that created lasting industry change focus on demonstrating rather than arguing. Every successful campaign, every viral fashion moment, every profitable brand partnership becomes evidence that sultry approaches create better business results than traditional glamour standards. Her approach to fashion representation focuses on elevation rather than accommodation. Instead of asking fashion to make space for different glamour, she proves that sultry authenticity makes fashion more beautiful, more engaging, and more commercially successful. The social media empire she built around fashion industry influence demonstrates how authentic sultry content creates more engagement, more influence, and more business value than performed conformity or manufactured fashion moments. But the most powerful aspect of her fashion empire is how it influences other models' relationships with their natural glamour, industry confidence, and authentic self-expression. Her success becomes evidence that fashion careers don't require conforming to someone else's standards. They require creating standards that celebrate your authentic sultry assets. The fashion industry transformation she created extends beyond just modeling into advertising, brand marketing, and cultural conversations about glamour standards. Her sultry approach became visual proof that fashion is more powerful when it celebrates rather than restricts natural magnetism. But changing fashion wasn't just about personal success. What if I told you that the most significant transformation in fashion industry standards didn't come from a designer, a celebrity, or a fashion house executive, but from one woman whose sultry approach was so undeniably powerful that it forced an entire industry to reconsider everything they thought they knew about glamour, marketability, and what fashion success could look like? Meet Gracie Bonn, the woman whose sultry content didn't just break into fashion, it completely revolutionized how the industry approaches confident beauty, turning every modeling moment into evidence that traditional fashion standards weren't protecting excellence, they were limiting it. While other models were busy conforming to narrow industry requirements and trying to fit into predetermined molds that the fashion world had established as appropriate, Gracie was proving something revolutionary: that sultry authenticity could create more impact, more influence, and more commercial success than manufactured perfection ever could. We're talking about a woman who looked at fashion industry gatekeepers, telling her what fashion-appropriate content was supposed to look like, and responded by creating such undeniable success that those same gatekeepers had to admit their standards were outdated, restrictive, and ultimately bad for business. But here's the real story that fashion insiders don't want you to know. The most profitable, most influential, and most culturally impactful fashion moments come from authentic sultry energy that refuses to apologize for being exactly what it is. Gracie cracked the code by making her sultry approach the star, instead of trying to minimize it for industry comfort. So buckle up, because we're about to reveal the real story behind how one sultry revolution changed fashion forever, the specific strategies that turned authentic glamour into industry influence, and the blueprint that proves sultry assets can transform entire industries when they're approached with confidence instead of apology. Before Gracie Bonn became the woman whose sultry success changed fashion forever, she was just another beautiful woman with modeling aspirations trying to navigate a fashion industry that had very specific ideas about what commercial glamour was supposed to look like, and those ideas didn't include her sultry approach. Picture this: walking into casting calls where the unspoken requirements seemed to prioritize conformity over uniqueness, where fashion-appropriate meant toning down rather than celebrating natural sultry energy, and where success appeared to require fitting into predetermined categories rather than creating new ones. But here's where her story gets interesting. Instead of trying to change her sultry approach to fit fashion industry expectations, she started questioning why those expectations existed in the first place, and whether they actually created better fashion, or just more predictable fashion. Her early relationship with fashion and modeling was shaped by an industry that treated sultry content like obstacles to overcome rather than assets to leverage. Every casting call, every agency meeting, every industry interaction seemed designed around the assumption that commercial success required looking a specific way that didn't match her natural glamour. The traditional fashion industry standards she encountered weren't based on consumer preferences or market research. They were based on outdated assumptions about what fashion audiences wanted to see and what brands thought was safe for their image and marketing strategies. But the biographical turning point wasn't a dramatic rejection or industry confrontation. It was the quiet realization that she could create more memorable, more impactful, and more commercially successful fashion moments by celebrating her sultry approach as the centerpiece rather than trying to work around it. She discovered that her sultry energy wasn't a limitation to overcome in pursuit of fashion success. It was a competitive advantage that could create more authentic, more engaging, and more profitable fashion content than traditional approaches. The challenges of breaking into fashion with non-traditional glamour weren't just about booking jobs. They were about educating an entire industry about the commercial value of authentic sultry content and the market demand for fashion representation that celebrated rather than restricted natural magnetism. But the real story, it started when fashion tried to change her.